Well, I've got one rather intriguing report to share with you guys today. As you know, Dan Bongino has recently returned to his podcast just as of a few days ago. He actually came back to Cumulus Radio on February 2nd. And to me, it became clear almost instantaneously that he wasn't there just to ease back in or catch back up with his audience. I believe his entire return was intentional, it was timed, and even he had a purpose for doing it. Now, we know that he stepped back from the FBI back in early January. He kind of took that month off, I guess, but he's come back with a very powerful message that I believe he could not wait to deliver. And I believe it is the perfect timing to drop it to the American people. But quite frankly, I don't believe this is just some speculation or some kind of political noise. I believe it's a signal. So stay with me in today's broadcast, because what I believe he was trying to convey and why he chose this moment to say what he did, well, I believe this could have very serious implications for the United States of America and what comes next, especially in light of everything he learned over the past year. I've got a lot to share with you in today's broadcast, but as a quick reminder, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel and share this video with everyone you know, because YouTube hasn't been sharing it. But as a quick reminder, kind of want to dive into the details before I get into that message. This is on Fox News. And as you know, as of January 4th, Dan Bongino officially left the FBI as deputy director role after less than a year to return to civilian life. Now, we also know that he started with Cumulus Radio back again. He dropped his daily program on February 2nd. I do watch Dan Bongino from time to time, but Cumulus Media, Dan Bongino returns to the Cumulus podcast network with the relaunch of the Dan Bongino Show, and it drops February 2nd. So we're talking this podcast dropped just a few days ago. And within the first two podcasts, it's actually the second or the third podcast that he gave, is where that warning therein lies. And you're going to want to hold fast, especially if you're a parent, because this speaks monumental and a dire warning, if you will, to the American people. But before I get into that, just a quick break from my sponsor. Well, we've previously talked about how Atomic Minerals changing under ATOM on the TSX venture and the ATMMF in the U.S. is positioned to answer America's urgent need for domestic uranium. And today, that story is truly moving faster than anybody expected. The $2.7 billion Department of Energy Uranium Enrichment Initiative isn't just a headline, it is a big game changer. This commitment signals that the United States government is serious about securing domestic uranium supply. And the market, well, it's responding. Uranium explorers with strategic assets and proven management are seeing increased investor interest. As the reality sets in, America needs these companies. This isn't about speculation. It's about national security. And our military relies on uranium for advanced defense systems, for our naval reactors, and even for strategic deterrence. With more news on the way and the support from our government, this story you're going to want to follow closely. Check out the link in the description box below to get more information, or go to atomicminerals.ca to find out more. All right, so just exactly what was this warning given to American parents all over the United States of America? We'll take a look at where I found it, and it's directly on his channel there, and it's the title, The Looming Threat That No One Is Talking About. And this was in the first couple of videos that he posted, by the way. But take a listen to what he says here.
I wanted to get to this because this is really important. Matter of fact, I rarely put this stuff at the beginning of the show. But one of the things I saw from the inside that I don't think is getting out there enough, but if you're a parent or going to be a parent, or you know anyone who's a parent, which is pretty much everyone listening to this show, I want you to pay very close attention to these three numbers. 764. 764, I had heard about it, but did not have, obviously, detailed law enforcement knowledge, given that I went into law enforcement. There is a network of people out there, this what they call the 764 network inside the FBI. And folks, if you haven't heard about them, look them up. I'm not going to spend an enormous amount of time on it today, but it it's important because it involves the safety of our kids. Yep. But second, it involves another critical issue, which is surveillance and civil liberties. They're interconnected on this.
That's it. And that's the thing. So this group, he very clearly says it's a dangerous group, especially to parents, right? And then he says it has to do with surveillance, and it also has to do with our children and what they're doing. So he actually expands on that a little bit more. But before I show you this clip, I do want to tell you, like in between it, he talks about videos that he got, during his time at the FBI that showed rather atrocious things that 764 was doing. Things that, by the way, are not even... if you saw them, he says, you wouldn't be able to ever unsee what he saw. And he talks about things like, messing with animals and suicide in the whole 9 yards. But they actually talk children into this. But he expands on everything 764 does. Take a listen to this.
What this network does is they find and hunt down your kids in these chat rooms for these online games and chat rooms elsewhere. You need to, folks, you have to monitor this stuff. You have to monitor this stuff. It is not a small network of people. It is an enormous group of people looking to do horrible things to your kids. They get your kids to cut themselves. They get the kids to get involved in sexual abuse, and it's self-mutilation. Every single demonic thing you can think encompasses this 764 network.
That's insane. This is how bad the network actually is. Getting your children to do things they wouldn't normally do. And thousands of kids have been impacted, by the way. Take a listen to what Fox News said about the group.
It's called 764, rather. It's a network accused of using social media and gaming platforms to target and groom kids, pushing them to commit depraved acts of violence, killing their pets on camera, cutting deep into their skin, carving 764. Well, the FBI, again, is telling Fox News every field office across America is involved in tracking down the members of 764. We don't exactly know where they're based, though, and they are all over, so it's a big job. More than 350 subjects are under investigation alone, and they're connected to more than 2,000 cases where children were targeted and groomed online into committing horrific acts of violence against their families, their pets, themselves. And some of these schemes resulted in the victims killing themselves.
There you have it. So 350 subjects under investigation who have reportedly messed with children in some way, shape, or form. 2,000 children. This is a big problem that I think we haven't really heard enough about. I mean, to be honest, I've been on air for a very long time. Thankfully, my kids are now in their 20s. I think they're older now, Justice Knight's and mine, but we've got 4 all in their 20s between us. But it's just insane that we weren't notified of this company, of 764 sooner. But apparently they're reaping all kinds of hazards on our children. Here's an FBI kind of write-up on it, and this is on FBI Chicago, but Ryan Maxwell, he's an assistant special agent in charge of the FBI Chicago field office, but he's warning about 764. Again, it's a violent online group made up of individuals to coerce and manipulate children into doing unspeakable things to animals, to other children, to themselves, right? And their goal is to exploit minors ranging from the ages of 10 to 17. And a lot of those teenage kids are very vulnerable at that age. I mean, if I go back to when I was a teenager, I think we lose our minds for a little bit and then we come to. So they really are taking advantage of that. And it's not just in the United States, right? This is all around the world. In fact, there is a whole thing in Canada with it too, in which Canada agents and federal agents are trying to, or their police are trying to track down similar operations in Canada. So this is a global thing, but it's very, very disconcerting. Now, the good news is they have arrested one of the ringleaders. This is justice.gov. 764 extremist group leader pleads guilty to RICO child exploitation charges. Now, thank God that this leader, one of their main leaders for this extremist group, was arrested. And this happened in December, so obviously this was under Kash Patel. But Kash Patel said that he will not rest, basically, until all the members of this terrorist organization are arrested, or this extremist organization are arrested. So I guess my plea to you is the same plea as Dan Bongino's. Keep your kids close. Watch what they're doing online. Pay attention who they're talking to, who they're communicating with, because you just never know. And I think even, these are things I want to tell my 20-year-olds too, and tell your kids if your kids have kids, so they're aware of organizations like this. So keep them up to date, and just have a heads up for all of that. Anyhow, wanted to share all of that with you guys. I love you all. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.